Oh man, oh man, oh man. I'm gonna try to laugh as much as I possibly can to keep from crying or being upset. I'm not gonna literally cry, but I don't know how many of you have heard the expression laugh to keep from crying, but that's pretty much how I'm feeling right now. I don't know how many of you watched my video when I was fanboying over Zelina Vega's jury cosplay at the Royal Rumble, but I'd mentioned there that Januaries for me tend to suck. Not all of them, obviously, but most of them. I'm not gonna have a big old long story time going down that miserable memory lane because I'm not here to really make you miserable or to sop so much. Despite being pretty bummed out about this, I actually want to just express how thankful I am and just express how much fun that I had with Rumbleverse. And in case you don't know, because I assume very few of you watching this may know how much I actually love playing that game, I've streamed it extensively on Twitch. Probably my most streamed game, probably next to Paladins maybe, but that's only because Paladins has been out longer. Just got news that Rumbleverse will be shutting down its servers next month. And another reason why this bums me out, even though I mentioned the whole January thing, is that it'll be shutting down during my birthday month. Yeah, definitely not the present that I wanted. I know I haven't talked that much about this game on this channel. In fact, I think the only time I've mentioned it was in my rant about Sifu getting a Best Fighting Game nomination for the recent Game Awards, and me mentioning how Rumbleverse would have been much more befitting of a nomination, as well as of course expressing that it was my favorite game of 2022, and I still stand by that. That is the game released that year that I had the most fun playing above anything else, more than any other fighting game, more than any other thing that I might have indulged in, visual novels, all that stuff. Rumbleverse stands head and shoulders above all of it. It was just so amazing to me how a free-to-play brawler battle royale game was so addictive. And I've actually played other battle royale games, more specifically stuff like Apex Legends, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, the homie Vault, shoutouts as always, got me interested in Naraka Blade Point, which still waiting for the PS5 version to come out, but nevertheless it looks really interesting. But for me, Rumbleverse was really something special. Like with Apex Legends, I only really play that game when I'm with like a handful of friends that still love to play it, and that's because I just can't take playing with randos who just love to rage quit when they don't get their way. And it's about petty stuff. Like you might have picked up an item that they wanted and they rage quit, you know, that whole crap, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to go down that road. Rumbleverse, I was able just to go in solo, do my own thing, and not have to worry about it. The only annoyance, of course, is being third party, which from what I understand is just a thing when it comes to battle royale games. It's just what it is. Additionally, what made Rumbleverse so special to me was the fact that it just had so much that connected deeply with me. Of course, if you've been watching my channel or if you just look in the description or look at my content at a glance, I love fighting games. And if the Zelina Vega video from recently isn't an indicator enough, if you're new to this channel, I also love pro wrestling. That is another reason why that moment with Zelina Vega gave me so much joy. It's like two of my favorite things, two things that I'm hyped for. The Royal Rumble is actually one of my favorite WWE pay-per-views, and of course Street Fighter 6 is one game that I'm definitely hyped for. Having those two things coalesce was just so awesome, and Zelina Vega did so well with the tribute. So well. I can also say the same thing about Rumbleverse. My love for pro wrestling and fighting games came together to make something incredible. I know some people will look at footage of this game and be like, you really say this is a fighting game? It's got a fighting game flavor to it. It's not just because of certain moves they have, like certain familiar ones like the Shoryuken, 100-hand slap, stuff like that, but it has a fighting game flavor to it. The concepts of neutral and footsies and punishing, recovery frames, priority, all of that stuff is there. It's got a fighting game feel to it. A lot of people will dismiss the game because there's not directional inputs and doing combos in there is fairly easy, especially if you've been playing fighting games for a long time. But at the same time, I could go and play a whole bunch of Rumbleverse and then go back and play some traditional fighters, and I would be more mindful about whiffing attacks because you got punished heavily for whiffing attacks in Rumbleverse. There's been this whole discussion about single player content in fighting games, and sure, Rumbleverse really didn't have a smorgasbord of that, but every single match would definitely be a different experience, especially when it came to you trying to fulfill the missions that would help you complete your battle passes faster. They did kind of venture off into a different type of mode, albeit it was seasonal, as it is with a lot of these games. They tend to have seasonal modes, especially during the holiday season. But Rumbleverse had a really cool snowball fight mode, which was pretty cool. It annoyed me at first, but then again, it was my first time playing, and obviously you're not going to always be godlike at something on the first run, which is something a lot of gamers need to understand. Some stuff takes time. And over time, I warmed up to the snowball fight mode, ironically. One additional thing that made me so happy to see that you were able to customize your own character in Street Fighter 6 was the fact it made me think of Rumbleverse, because that's what you do. The character that you play in Rumbleverse is your creation. There was a decent amount of cosmetics that you could equip, but of course, if you're familiar with these types of games, of course the best drip you had to actually pay for. They can't help themselves, can they? Though I praise Rumbleverse as a battle royale game that I can queue up solo for and not have to worry about toxic randos, of course, I've played with friends, and those matches have also been some of the most fun experiences that I've ever had. Doing tag team moves, I think almost with every friend that I've played this game with, I've won a match with them. And sure, I know there are certain fighting games out there where you can team up with friends like in tag team modes and all that, but none of them really felt like Rumbleverse. Playing these multiplayer modes with friends in Rumbleverse, whether it's duos, whether it's trios, whether it's squads, this is where Rumbleverse felt more like a wrestling game as opposed to a fighting game. Sure, both of these games when it comes to teaming up with friends are about synergy, but there's just a different flavor to it. Like in Rumbleverse, when your partner gets knocked down, you have the opportunity to pick them back up. You can save your partner from getting hit by certain moves, with the exception of like super moves. Like for instance, if you and I were tagging up and I'm about to get suplexed, you could actually kick the person suplexing me to stop the move. Kinda reminds me of when they do that in wrestling, whether it's stopping a move, breaking up the pinfall, stuff like that. It's stuff like this, these little intricacies make this game special to me. The footage that I have playing throughout this video is like a microcosm of footage that I've saved of me playing this game. Like, this is how much I enjoyed it, this is how much I had so many awesome moments with it. I've made compilations, albeit most of them are on other platforms, because again, I was not exactly confident or sure if Rumbleverse content would actually flow well with my channel overall. Though I will say, looking at this news, I do kind of regret not embracing it all that much. Like, I know there's been this whole talk because I've seen Ignant Rizzy, shoutouts as always for shouting out my channel and just being awesome all around. He had a couple discussions on stream talking about the state of fighting game content on YouTube and such like that. I know there's been this whole thing about should you switch stuff up, should you keep it the same, consistency and all that. Of course, I do tend to agree with the fact that the landscape when it comes to making content has changed. That's why you've seen certain fighting game content creators venturing out into other things, but that's a conversation for another time. Above all, I just want to say thank you Iron Galaxy and Epic Games for Rumbleverse. I really hate to see it go out like this. The silver lining here is, of course, it's gonna shut down at the end or towards the end of February the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm definitely gonna be rumbling it up all the way up until that point there. So I don't know if you all are interested in it. It's free to play. So in the words of another popular content creator, if you want to, go out and play some Rumbleverse. And until then, I will see you all next time. You take care of yourselves, be safe out there, be cool to each other. See ya.